Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Yasser Ahmed. So in this video, we're going to be looking at chapter 6 from the ICT IGCSE course. So chapter 6 is about ICT applications. And hopefully what I will be doing is splitting this chapter into some smaller videos. So we're going to be starting off with communication. And initially we're going to be now looking at paper-based communication. And then we will compare this to the use of using computers. So communication that's paper-based could be either newsletters, brochures, flyers, posters, and this will be printed and this could be handed out to provide information. So for example, newsletters, we could have a newsletter from the school, which it could include recent events and news stories that could be printed and given to parents, brochures or leaflets to advertise a particular company, flyers to promote maybe a new event that's coming up or to create awareness, and posters which could be displayed maybe to promote a new movie that's about to come out. So with the paper-based communication, the advantages are you don't need to have a computer or an internet connection, and you can have a physical copy of the documents. So I know, for example, some people prefer to go to a restaurant and they prefer to see the menu in front of them rather than having to scan in a QR code and see it online. The disadvantage would be the distribution. So especially the newsletters, brochures, leaflets, flyers, this would have to be given out one at a time to each person, and they may take a while. Obviously, there will be printing costs as well, and you may be restricted to a smaller target audience because this will all be based on who receives this paper-based communication. If it was online, then obviously you have a global customer base. So here you can see some examples of these paper-based communications. So if you are using a computer, then obviously, or the use of the computers in creating these documentations, you can save and insert pictures from clip art, internet, or scanned images and a digital camera. You can adjust the formatting of the page. You can insert tables or create graphs in Excel. You can format the layout of the document. You can now use many templates provided within the applications. There's lots of different effects that you can apply to make your documents more appealing, and obviously the formatting of the text. So these paper-based documents will have to be created using a computer, okay? And there's lots of effects that we can use when using the computer. So we got the paper-based communication, and you also have the computer-based methods of communication. And one of the most obvious examples, a way an organization or a school, for example, again, can communicate with all the parties involved is to have a website. So the website, again, would have the latest, most up-to-date information about a particular school, organization. There could be interaction between the user and the website. The website can easily be updated, can provide, animations, videos, graphics, sound. So to make the content more interactive. With the paper-based, once it's printed, that's it. You can make it nice. You can include lots of graphics. But if you want the interactive experience, then obviously the website is more appealing. The website is obviously online, so there's no need to print anything. It can be accessed from anywhere if you have an internet connection with any device, or like a phone, a tablet, a laptop, for example. And websites can be used to research, social network, online gaming, or for online shopping and banking. So it's a very powerful tool. On your website, so as a standalone, you can have a multimedia presentation. So for example, in a class situation, you may have a presentation on a board, or an office meeting, you may have a presentation. And to make it more appealing compared to receiving a paper-based communication, in a PowerPoint, you can have animations, you can have sound effects, you can include links to videos. Obviously, with the graphics, it's much more appealing compared to just reading something based off a paper. Also, we can have audio, video streaming to promote business. You could have adverts on YouTube, for example, and e-publications, which can be accessed online. So maybe it's a newsletter that we've created just to be shared as a PDF, for example. So there's no need for printing or for delivery. And with the online materials, it's easier to update. So let's say, for example, you are a restaurant and you have sent out a menu and then you've added additional items onto your menu. Then you'd have to print off new menu and give that to your customers, and that would be time consuming. It will cost money. If it was an online publication, you can just update that publication one time, and then this can be accessed by all of your customers. So the advantage of using computer-based communication is you can include interactive elements such as sound, video, animation, hyperlinks can be available on different platforms. However, the disadvantage will be websites can be hacked and information may be altered. Setting up a website and maintaining would be expensive and would require a special skill set. So maybe you have to hire some web developers if you want to maintain your website. Okay, and here's some typical exam questions. A group of students in a school are planning to publicize a school's concert. They can either produce a web page, which will be sent to the company that runs the school website, or create a multimedia presentation and show this to the students and visitors. Give two types of content which could be used in a multimedia presentation that cannot be used in a printed leaflet. So this is what we're talking about. So in a presentation, we can include animation, sound, audio, hyperlinks, for example, and so on. Describe the advantage and disadvantage of using a multimedia presentation rather than a web page on a school website. So notice how I'm writing my answer. This is a 6-mark question. I'm trying to include the keywords and I'm trying to get to the point as quick as I can. So the advantage and disadvantage of using a presentation, a multimedia presentation, rather than a web page. So both are computer based. So a multimedia presentation would be easier to display to parents. It would also be easier and quicker to update the content of the multimedia presentation. People viewing the presentation will be school-based. It will also be viewed without internet access. However, a presentation is only available in the school during school time, whereas a web page can be used in other places, basically any time as well, you could say. A website is more accessible compared to a presentation. So we're basically saying the presentation will only be available during the school time. Okay. However, a website can be available outside of school hours from any device, pretty much with an internet connection. And finally, let's look at mobile-based methods of communication. So maybe a bank, for example, may want to make use of phone calls or text messages. So, for example, banks, if you make a purchase, you make a transfer of money, you'll always receive a simple message just to confirm what you've done. So the phone calls obviously allows you to make audio phone calls to each other from any location. I'll keep it the school example. So maybe someone's absent from school, someone's child. The school may call home to see or find out the reason for the absence. They may send a text message. For example, let's say we have a rain day or a snow day, schools are closed. A text message could be sent to all parents. And obviously internet as well, accessing internet can be accessed by your mobile phone. So you can receive email messages or social media messages relating to that company. The advantage of using your mobile is portable and can be used on the move. Mobile phone contracts can offer 3 minutes and text. So let's say you want to send text messages out to employees or people, parents, as I mentioned in the example. You may have free text. And you're always likely to have your phone on you to receive information on the go. Now, the disadvantage is long distance calls or phone calls in different countries could be expensive. Mobile signal could be weak or non-existent in some places. And you all might be familiar with using WhatsApp also to make phone calls. And this is voice over internet protocol when voice calls are taking place over an internet connection. So like WhatsApp. I don't really use Viber anymore. Viber used to be something I used a long time ago. So you might not be familiar with this icon. Okay. Well, now let's look at modeling applications. So a computer model is a model which would replicate or simulate the functions of a real life system. Now, the most obvious one that comes to people's mind is the flight simulator. So this example here. And why do we use computer models? Okay, so what we want to do is train our pilots in a safe environment. If a mistake is made, it's not going to cost a life. It's not going to cause damage to the equipment, to the plane. So what we can do is we can create a flight simulator and we can train pilots in the different scenarios, maybe flying through turbulence or through different conditions, taking off and landing, again in different conditions, and it's all in a safe environment. So a mistake can be made, and it's not going to it's not going to cost someone's life or cause a great deal of damage. However, with a simulation, you can't really relive the same stress. So if you were in a plane and something happened, or if you're in a simulation, something happened, the same thing happened, obviously you'll be more relaxed in the simulation. So you can't replicate everything exactly, but it's a tool to train pilots in a safe environment. So why do we use computer models? To save cost and time by testing the system before you build it, to train how to use a system in a safe, controlled environment, to investigate the capabilities of the system in detail by interrogating and manipulating the computer model, and to make predictions of how the system would operate in the future. So, for example, we can use spreadsheets to track profit and loss. And maybe you're selling tickets to a party. This is an example I give to my class. And you realize you spent X amount. Okay. So through the ticket sales, you need to recoup the money to break even or to make a profit. So you can put in the amount of tickets you expect to sell and then the amount you expect to sell them for. And then you can work out how much money you can make according to what you sell and at different prices if you're using formulas functions. Also, sometimes when we're testing buildings to see if they're earthquake proof, we can simulate this in a warehouse. So what you don't want to do is build something and then you realize this is not fit for purpose, and then you'd have to go back to a drawing board. So you don't want to build something and then, for example, a bridge, and you can't withstand the wind conditions. Then you've spent a lot of money already of having developed or built something that is not meeting the expectations. So we can test it on a smaller scale in a controlled environment, like you can see in this picture here. And then obviously, if you can make predictions, and if it passes a test, then you can make this on a grander scale. So the advantage of using computer models is safer, the environment, no threat to human life, the reduced costs, because you're not going to damage anything. You can investigate the data and make predictions. Computers can also test different scenarios, and it's quicker to see the results. However, the disadvantage is flight simulators are a safe environment and cause what's that say? Yeah, I should be, and can cause humans to be more relaxed. I think I need to fix that. Mistakes may be made in the programming, okay, and the cost of purchasing the simulation equipment may be high. Right. So let's say, for example, of the Excel, let's say you got mistakes in your formulas, you may not get the required outputs that you expect because your formulas are not working to the expectation. Okay, and you got some more modeling applications. As I said, spreadsheets to forecast maybe future profits or loss. You can use formulas to help you, so you can enter values into cells and the formulas can work out the calculations, and you can change values and the formulas will automatically work out the new revenues based on what you've entered. Flight simulators, again, we talked about this. Pilots are able to learn how to fly a plane using the flight simulator. The controls and interface will be the same as a real plane. Different conditions can be tested and it's reduced costs as a plane would not be damaged in the training. A bridge and building. So before buildings are constructed, simulations take place to ensure they're fit for purpose. Simulations ensure the potential building could cope with physical demands, including earthquakes and storm threats. Traffic lights as well. So maybe you have a busy road, so you want to simulate how long would it take to clear traffic coming in from one direction, for example, compared to traffic from another direction. We can also use simulations to predict the weather, okay, so we can be more prepared, and also for flood or water management as well, so we can predict how much, maybe if we have a lot of rainfall, how much floods we may have, and then obviously we can be prepared before that happens. So I know where I work, a few weeks ago, there was a lot of rain forecasted, and it was decided schools would be online because obviously we didn't want people coming and going to school and then to be caught out with the rain, and so it was safer to keep everyone at home. Right, here we have a modelling question. So in June 2000, the London Millennium Bridge opened to the public but closed shortly afterwards for repairs. The bridge was swaying as people walked across it. Before bridges are built, computer models are produced and the models are tested. Explain why computer models are used before building a bridge. It would be safer to run a computer model rather than risking human life. The computer model could be tested for different scenarios. It will save money as it saves on resources, fewer errors in the final version of the real item, as errors would have been resolved. To build the bridge and test it would be impractical due to the cost and time. So what these guys have done, they built a bridge only to find out there's issues when people walk across it, straying from one side to another side. So what they could have done is use a simulation to check for different scenarios, and these could have been resolved if issues were found before you actually built the bridge. And then another question, the city of Venice is in danger of being damaged due to rising sea levels. A new computer-controlled flood defense system is being planned. The developers of the system are using a spreadsheet to model the plan. Give 3 reasons why computer models are used to simulate the flood defense system. So it's cheaper than building a real thing. It's quicker to see results rather than building it, and it's safer than building the real thing. And it's easier to change variables in the model, so using different what ifs. So we're basically simulating what would happen if we had a flood in a city, and what could be done to prevent. So what can we have in a defense system to prevent the flood from spreading across the city? So obviously we want to simulate this, okay, and then we can work out what's working well, what could be improved, and then based on those findings, we can create a defense system. And hopefully at this point we've created it, we tested it, and it should be more appropriate to the needs of the city. What you don't want to do is build something without any testing, and then there's lots of rain, there's floods, and the system's not working to expectation. So you're kind of defeating the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, and already you've spent too much money building this system which hasn't been tested under different conditions. Okay, guys, let's look at computer controlled systems, and let's look at robots. So robots can be used in factories, in manufacturing, for example, to build cars, to improve product. I can't get this word out my mouth. Productivity, consistency in terms of final finish, and to reduce overall running costs. So robots will generally make the factory a much more safer environment. They will normally complete more extreme tasks, obviously, which could be a risk to humans. Maybe they could be lifting heavy objects, assembling parts together, painting items or spraying, manufacturing microchips. So robots can do the same jobs as humans, but to a greater level of accuracy, detail, and consistency. Robots will not get tired over a period of time compared to humans. So how does it work? So if you want a robot to carry out a particular task, the first thing that you'll have to do is program the robots with a sequence of instructions. The programmer will guide the robot through each step, either physically or by controlling the robot by remote. Each sequence of movement is then stored in a memory, and a robot is now able to carry out the same sequence of instructions over and over again. And the robots have sensors as well, so they can detect the environment and the conditions around them, different variables. So you do get typical questions with robotics, the advantages and disadvantages. So let's look at the advantages first of all. So robots can work at 24/7 with the same consistency and accuracy compared to humans. Robots can be more productive than humans and can work in extreme conditions not suitable for humans. And you don't need to pay the robots as well. However, the disadvantage would be robots cannot easily adapt to a situation which is beyond their sequence of instructions. Robots may be expensive to purchase and to maintain. Some workers may lose their jobs as robots are doing more labor intensive jobs. People are de-skilled due to robots doing more complicated jobs. And here's a typical exam question. So, a car manufacturing company uses computer controlled robots to manufacture its cars. Discuss the advantage and disadvantage to the company of using computer controlled robots rather than using humans to manufacture the cars. So, the robots can work 24/7, can work more accurately. The production of the cars is more consistent. Also, robots can complete tasks which are dangerous for humans. Large items can also be moved using robots. Fewer workers are needed, therefore lowering costs. However, robots are expensive to buy and to maintain. They replace skilled workers, leading to de-skilling and unemployment. Robots need consistent observations. And another robot question. So the managers have been told they can use their robots for other tasks by replacing existing sensors with different ones. Give three advantages of using existing robot device rather than developing a new one. So we just want to basically replace some sensors on an existing robot to use the robot for another purpose, okay, for another task. So what we don't want to do is build a robot from scratch. We basically want to repurpose an existing robot just by replacing some sensors. So what are the advantages? You could say more likely to be reliable, as we know the device works. It's cheaper than paying for full development costs for making a new robot. It's quicker to get into the operation as the device has already been built, just changing the sensors only. Lower maintenance costs as faults will be known, and lower costs for training staff as they should be familiar already with using some of these robots. Right, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at this point. 6.4 school management systems will pick it up in the next video. Thank you for your time. Please drop your comments below, like and share, and good luck in your exams. Thank you. Bye-bye.